Grande Valley has been put on the map multiple times throughout history.
Tonight, Cameron County Historical Commissioner Eugene Fernandez shows us 5 of the biggest dates for the Rio Grande Valley this evening's Throwback Thursday.
South Texas is full of world-class events of all orders. This one in particular we're going to cover today put us on the map again in world history because it was considered the last battle of the Civil War. Lee had surrendered to Grant on April 9th of 1865. Now this battle occurred on May 12th and 13th of that year. That's over 30 days beyond the official surrender. The battle was fought by people in this part of the country not knowing that the war was over. Well, that's a falsehood right there. We need to clear that up. There are 5 sets of dates that enter into the picture. The first one, of course, is that there was an accord that was drafted among the generals on May 11th and 12th, and that was a semi-ceasefire, a gentleman's agreement, April 9th. We're going in succession here. And then on May 1st, there was a steamer that was coming into the port there at Baghdad, and they threw off a newspaper to the people here at Palmetto Hill, and it stated that the war had been over, the president had been shot, and all that. So they were fully aware that the war was over. On May 10th of 1865, that's when the Union forces captured Jefferson Davis. And at that point in time, the Union declared that the war was technically over because there was no more Southern government. Then we go on to June 2nd. You see how this strings on now? And that was when the Confederate forces were surrendered. That was the Trans-Mississippi. That's all of the forces that were out here west of the Mississippi. On June 23rd, you had the last Confederate general to surrender his forces. On April 2nd, actually, going back, President Johnson, because President Lincoln had already been shot, declared the insurrection at an end. So there's all kinds of dates floating around here, but the most important date on August 20th of 1866, mind you, that's when Texas surrendered. Rip Ford, who was the commander of the forces at Fort Brown, knew that Texas had not surrendered, but that there was a gentleman's agreement in place. There is a commander that was put in place at Brazos, Santiago. That was the point by which the Union controlled the blockade. They could not come down to the mouth of the river because beyond that was neutral territory of Mexico. So this particular commander, Colonel Barrett, was the one that started the whole problem here. There was already a gentleman's agreement in place, as I had said, but he violated that. Colonel Barrett came in from Brazos Island all the way up here where we are right now at Palmetto Hill, and he attacked the Confederate forces here. The Confederate forces actually were alerted by the French forces that were on the other side of the river. They were in agreement with one another. And so they sent word back to Colonel Ford at Fort Brown, and Colonel Ford came on out the next morning, and he had 6 cannon with him. The moment that those cannon showed up, he routed the Union forces, and they all started running. Why did Barrett come into this part of the country in order to do this in violation of that command? Well, there's 2 reasons, and they're very interesting. There was a stockpile of Southern cotton that was in Brownsville that was awaiting shipment across to Matamoros. That was the lifeline of the South. Now, that was a fortune's worth of cotton. Barrett knew that, and he wanted to take that for his personal gain. True story. Also, the control of the aduana, the customs house in Matamoros, was a very lucrative situation. He wanted to dip his hand into that pocket. Bear in mind that the war was effectively over, and everybody knew it. The conflict at Palmetto Hill was a post-war conflict. And this conflict right here was what really put a very large point in the history books. And the rest is history. For KVEO News, I'm Eugene Fernandez.